Good evening and welcome to the Town of Auburn Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, February 28, 2017. Now called to order at approximately 7 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live by Local Access Programming. Is anyone in the audience tonight recording tonight's meeting? Okay, there being none. Please rise and join us in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd like to remind audience, applicants, town administration, and each of the planning board members to please refrain from being asked questions in regard to all matters discussed this evening without first being granted consent. I'd also like to welcome our new associate member, local attorney Scott Wren. Welcome to the board. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry, through the chair. Is there anyone here reporting from newspaper or anything that needs to disclose their information? Okay, thank you.
Great. First item on the agenda this evening is 7 p.m. applicant Eastland Partners requesting an approval of the definitive subdivision plan containing approximately 60 acres of land for residential development in Auburn with access from Blaker Street. You just want to approach. Welcome back.
Sure.
Introduce yourself. And
My name is Chad Boardman, represent Eastland Partners, the reserve of Ashworth Hill. This is our engineer, Peter Lavoie from Guerriere and Howland Engineering.
I just put that right here?
Of course. Peter's here tonight. As you know, it's been going back and forth from Graves and Guerriere quite a bit, vetting through the process of conditions of the site and issues of the site and changes to the plans. So we thought this time with Matt that we were at the finish line. There was some minor changes that were left from the last report and would give Peter an opportunity to respond to some of the questions that were on the letter, as well as any questions that you may have regarding the site.
okay. So I would just a quick reminder to everybody that despite kind of what's been discussed in the past, this is the application in front of the board tonight is just a 4-unit subdivision, and that's what we're reviewing. That's really all we can review. And should any future processes occur that would go through either the planning board again and be notified in a similar way, or through a state process through DHCD, and I'd strongly encourage you guys to connect with Matt in the future as well, just to make sure that you're informed of those processes, and we encourage you to stay as engaged as you have been throughout that. So my hope was we could walk through, I think it's easiest to go through the last Graves minute.
Sure. Yeah.
And touch on the things that aren't resolved.
So that's February 7th?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just gonna go through the changes that I made with the the concerns that Graves had with, the ones that were still outstanding. I was just gonna go through those changes.
Sure. So
Unless you want to respond to the length of road and every single one, we could do that as well, because Matt can kind of respond to some of that as well.
So I don't want to take more time on this than is required, but there were a few things on the Graves memo that didn't seem like the loop is fully closed on. So maybe we can point those out to you. If any of the board members have questions as we go through this, they can raise them. First one, the first comment that's on here, comment 3, there's a conversation on it. It says we will discuss with planning board, so we can do that. I think, well, I'll turn it over to you. Maybe you quick do your response to that. Everybody kind of knows what
For
we're
number
talking
3,
about.
I was gonna leave that
Yeah,
up
I can respond
to the applicant.
In the process, there's a kind of a additional kind of an idea to do what was previously or what could also be done with a prior subdivision, or what could be done in addition to Lot 2. And what we had here was already an approved plan that potentially that Auburn had approved before for 25 lots. That would be, we would submit exactly the same plan that was already approved as a conceptual of what an alternative plan would be. So we discussed that with Matt as well. We could attach a PDF of that prior plan that was approved to the package if you like, or,
Matt, do you have any comment on that?
I was, through the chair, satisfied with this, as we have those other plans on record to know what a standard subdivision would look like in that area had it been developed, so
Is that the only purpose of that?
that's all it is. It's to show what...
Because that's
what
not
could be
before
done.
us,
That's correct.
the
No.
25 lot.
Right,
No,
it's just to
correct,
show what else could be done, and we saw that example in 2008.
So the outstanding question on here, just so everyone knows, is deferring to the planning board if it wished to receive a sketch plan showing possible street layout for, to the unsubdivided land owned or controlled by the applicant. I think there's already an access easement provided to the back lots,
that's correct.
and then there's also the existing plans that have already been approved, so. Any board comment? Okay. Number 5, it was revised, but note that no final peer review was conducted on our side, so I was hoping, some of these things that are revised but not confirmed, I was just hoping you could
Yep, no
show
problem.
us where those confirmations were.
Right, so for number 5, I added a note to the existing condition plan, which was sheet 6. That just refers to the datum that the plans were designed off of. So it's just a note on sheet 6, which is the existing condition plan.
Any board questions? All right. Number 8 refers to a waiver request.
Sure. That was there's a request in there for a waiver for locating the existing trees. Instead of doing a full plan of showing existing trees that are in the neighborhood, we'd like to, waive that.
Through the chair, that waiver is listed on the plans as our regulations require.
Okay.
So we'll go through that after.
Okay. Is there any board question while we're talking about that? Unless anybody had anything else, I think the next thing, 13 was revised also but not confirmed, so can you just kind of explain the change there?
Yes, I can, yep. So on sheet 10, which is the detail sheet, it shows a cross-section of the road, and I basically followed the recommendation by Graves and revised the sub-drains that would be proposed on each side of the cross-section, and it meets the specific requirements of the town.
Okay. Any questions? 15 is an item that we kind of addressed in the past relating to the road length, so I think we can skip that unless any of the board have any questions on that. Then 16, has that been done? Which is has the proposed street name for Road A been submitted to the town clerk, fire department, and police department?
No, it will be done tomorrow. There's a discrepancy of some of the names that we did come up with, so we were trying to find somebody in town that might have passed that would deem appropriate and things like that, so we're still working on some of those as well.
One of our standard conditions states that has to be done prior to the endorsement of the plan, so we could apply that condition.
Number 20 is another one that was done but not confirmed, and hoping you...
Right, so number 20 is just, it goes through the sizing of the pipe calcs, the drainage pipes within the road. So the drainage area, Graves was saying, was a little bit larger, so I just used the larger drainage area to size the pipes in the road, so that was done. And that's on a spreadsheet within the drainage report.
Matt, do you have any comment on that? Are you comfortable with this?
Out of my wheelhouse, so the drainage.
Is the board comfortable with that? Questions on that? All right. I believe the next item we had a question on was 31, which relates to streetlights and the type of streetlight to be installed.
I was just gonna use the standard street light that the town of Auburn requires.
Okay. Matt, is that something we could condition pending review by town engineer?
Yeah, through the chair, that type of streetlight to be approved by the town engineer. Sure.
Um, the next item, unless anyone had anything else, was 34.
So 34 is our, the Graves is looking for some soil information regarding the detention ponds. We are in contact with Quinn Engineering, who did the original design, basically because the basins are in the same location. We did try to do soil testing today, but the machine broke down, so we had to cancel the testing. So we're also trying to contact Quinn, who did the original design. So we did contact them today to get the soil information that they used to design
The prior plans.
the prior approved plans.
Where the extension basins are in the same spot, so same values of soils would be. And that could be a condition of approval as well.
Okay. Matt and the board. All right. And then I think the next item I had was 47, which seems to be revised but not confirmed as well. So if you just
Right, so 47 is, it showed a concrete bound on the detail sheet, which was sheet 11, and I basically revised that to a granite bound per the town's specifications and all the requirements that are required for that granite bound, how it has to be installed and what it's made of.
okay. All right. Matt?
Through the chair, do you mind showing us where that is on the screen?
If you scroll up a little more,
It's on sheet 11, right?
keep going.
Just make sure I'm on the right page.
Can you go down the next?
Sure.
Right there. So the granite bound is right here, so basically it's gonna be flush with the grade, and then this note right here is the requirement that the town requires, so I added that note.
How deep is that in the ground?
4 feet? 4 feet. I think I showed a 3-foot concrete bound on the plan, so I revised it 4 foot, it's 6 by 6.
Okay. So next item I have on it is 49, which just relates to the wetlands permits being required, and I just wanted to make a note that the applicant is still going through the Conservation Commission process. I don't know if Matt wanted to comment on that.
Sure, I believe they're still doing that. The next meeting is March 8th.
Okay. And I'm guessing 48 is likely resolved already. We skipped forward quite a bit of acknowledged items, and then I believe 59 was the next one that I had, which is a substantial one, kind of revised.
Correct, yep. So on 59, if you look at the grading plan, basically what Graves is looking for is they wanted me to revise the top of the berm and propose a 10-foot wide flat area, which it was a little narrower. So
Probably pointed out.
yeah, so I basically regraded the outsides of the basins and was able, you can see I show a 10-foot dash line around the basin, which is a flat level area. So I revised the grading along this side here and this side here to increase the flat area on top of the berm.
You want to ask me?
Can you point out all the basins that are on the plan?
All the basins, there's one basin here, a large one, and then there's a small basin in this location here.
Just the two.
Just the two, that's it. Basically, the grade of the road slopes down to Blaker, so this is kind of like a little valley, so we're sloping down.
All right. 60, similarly.
Yeah, 60 is, let's see, 60, There was a discrepancy in my drainage calculations when I submitted it. The stage storage of the basin, I had an older design, older numbers in the calculation, so I just revised the calculations. Basically, the basin is the same size. It was just the stage storage calculations that needed to be updated.
Okay. And 61.
61. Matt, can you slide this down?
Sure.
So there's a, let's see right here, there's a drain manhole here and a 24-inch pipe that runs to this manhole here before it goes into the basin. So this is going to be a Class 5 RCP, but Graves requested me to lower this pipe because I didn't have the 29 inches from the top of the pipe to finish grade. So basically I lowered this manhole, the outlet, so this is a little bit flatter. So by doing that, by lowering this 6 inches and flattening this pipe out, I make the 29 inches cover, which is required for a Class 5 RCP pipe.
Okay. Okay, so that concludes the peer review items. So, do you guys have any additional comments on the application? Okay. Are there any additional board comments? Okay. Matt?
Not on the peer review, no.
Okay. So, yeah, so we'll do public comment. Do you want to address your thoughts on whether or not we close the hearing tonight or continue?
Sure. So I spoke with the chairman of the Conservation Commission today, and it seems that they've done their site walk in the past, and you guys appeared before them on the 22nd and updated them with the latest, but they also have some updated plans. I don't know if they saw them at the meeting, but they're going to see them at their next meeting anyways, because we already have them. I'm anticipating March 8th to be a meeting where they may close and render a decision, and I think it would be in the planning board's best interest to possibly continue this hearing to that time, but also write a letter to the Conservation Commission. I would write a letter to the Conservation Commission stating that the peer review has concluded and the plan shouldn't experience any further revisions to that point that would affect any other conservation jurisdiction.
Okay. So, if there's any board conversation about that, but I tend to agree with that. I think tonight's a good opportunity, now that the peer review has been completed, and all the engineering details have been complete, we really have what would likely be a final plan, to have the public conversation about this, get any final public comment. Please know we've been listening to everything you've said along the way, so please try to keep it relevant to the final plan here. And then the next meeting would really just be a conversation on anything that would be essentially new from the Conservation Commission or any other developments. So, is there any public comment? Yeah.
Eileen Lassard, 11 Laker Street. I have a couple of comments.
Sure.
First, if the only thing before the board tonight is for 4 plots, why are we entertaining the expansion of Albert Street, which isn't required for additional houses? It seems that there's a contradiction in the plan and what the actual approval is asking for.
Sure. We've talked a little bit about this, but I don't know, Matt, can you quickly address that from the town's perspective?
Yeah, so I completely understand the question. I mean, typically for a 4-unit subdivision, you might not see such concessions for road improvements on a standard basis. And in fact, some subdivisions approved recently didn't even have road concessions as part of it. In this case, the applicant is forthcoming with this information. They're willing to do the work, and they're providing it to us without us asking for it. This is an opportunity to improve some town roads within public right-of-ways for most of it, and without having to expend tax dollars to do so. So it seems like an opportunity for the town to improve some roads in the area without having to do it ourselves under tax dollars.
Well, I would think that if they were going to, at a future time, ask for expansion of the number of sites in the subdivision, that would be done at that point anyway, and not at the cost of the town.
Right.
Do you wanna-
Through the chair, it very well could.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there's no question about it. Seeing it done at this stage is bizarre for four houses, and we understand that, but at the same time, it's to the applicant's benefit, this was already proposed and approved, so the design was already out there, and it just seems like positive concessions from my perspective.
And the reason I asked that, and I briefly talked to you about it, is that I'm going to land court to dispute the possession of the corner of Albert and Blaker. So that is in the works. And I don't know if that would hold up the whole thing or just the Albert-Blaker Street intersection and expansion. Secondly, the lady slippers. They have to be removed, transplanted, whether they're the showy lady slippers, which you do have pictures of now, or just the regular lady slippers. I know directly across from that road there are 14 such plants, which they're not going to be able to see until they actually come up in either April or May. And there's at least 27 along the intersection of Albert and Blaker. And there's a lot of them up in the hills there. I mean, I don't know all of them, I've never walked that property. So there is going to be a cost to move them, $50 for the regular lady slippers, $500 if it's a showy. They're not supposed to move the showy slipper ones anyway, so. But that's just a concern, I think, or a condition that I would ask to be considered. And that's it for me.
Through the chair, it's my understanding that conservation and not only the state and Mass DEP have regulations against endangered and wild habitat and such, especially the showy lady slipper, and I saw and understand the difference between the two. So I'm not sure it's something the planning board would put on their condition. However, it could be a recommendation from this board to the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
Okay. So maybe something that we could ask you, Matt, to include in your letter to the Concom that you're already tracking.
Sure.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Yeah, Mark Lulu, Williams Drive.
Sure.
Again, it's not the 4, which I know you already know, it's the continuing purchasing of land, the continuing purchasing of the 120 acres behind the 60 acres
Yeah.
of land, and the fact that engineers have still been up there. That's one of our main goals as a group is what are the, I know it's for the lots, and he does the 4 lots. It's what is going to come after the 4 lots, and again, that's our main concern that we would really like to know at some point.
Sure. And just kind of once again, the only thing we can really review is the application in front of us, but strongly encourage you all to stay in touch with Matt and make sure you understand the processes going forward should anything change, so that you're able to be as engaged in that process.
As Mr. Weaver pointed out at the beginning, no matter what comes back to the planning board, if it ever does any modification, would require a public hearing and be notified just the same. And if it comes through any other venue, whether it's a state application or not, our zoning board has the same public hearing notification process where you would be notified and invited to public hearing again. So any such thing other than like an A&R plan where it's lot division, where there isn't notification, but any sort of building or increase in units, et cetera, you'd be notified.
And they're all the butters?
That's right.
Okay. Is there any final public comment? Okay. Seeing none. Do you have an additional comment?
No, just regarding the Conservation Commission. Conservation Commission, the last time I was there, has the updated plans that were submitted that night. So they do have those copies of that, and also some additional correspondence regarding lady slippers and some other things. So it's back in their court as well.
Okay. All right. So, is there any additional board comments, concerns, questions on the application to address?
I was just wondering, was the length of the roadway, did they finally come to some agreement on that? Because these two conflicted. They feel one way, we feel another way. Has there been, I guess?
There has, and
There has, through the chair, town council has weighed in on this, stating that the waiver wouldn't be necessary, despite what our subdivision rules seem to state. There's case law to support otherwise. So they feel that the waiver wouldn't be necessary.
Will you explain that, Matt? I'm not quite sure you're looking at.
So the applicant submitted a letter from an attorney citing case law to support that the length of the roadway starts at a certain point, and town council agreed with that. So,
And where is that point?
right at the start of the roadway.
Right at,
Right, yes.
where the new road would start off Laker?
So, and there was case law to support it, and town council agreed. So we don't have to grant a waiver. And I know it's technicality, but we just don't have to do that waiver vote as a technicality.
Well, what about the length of the roadway going in? How far is that? Is it, which one of these is it? And
So it's, well, it's the
740.
it's the shorter of the two.
Yeah, the 746 feet.
So
no, sorry,
The
I'm looking at these.
determination was
78,
essentially
60.
Yeah,
that
740.
you have to go to the, you can't
It's under the
use,
800, I got it.
you can't add on additional dead-end streets to be considered part of additional road, can only be to the intersecting street. So, okay. Any additional board questions, concerns, or comments? Okay. So,
I said some additional items that we had discussed also, and they were just part of the subdivision rules. There are possible conditions also. It's one of our requirements to submit proof of ownership, rights to purchase, a purchase and sale agreement, including any deed restrictions and covenants. It may as well be on there already, but it could be a condition for us to consider. Pretty standard condition. One of our other standard conditions states that the property addresses would be placed on the plan also once it's put towards endorsement. The three waivers are the tree plan that was mentioned earlier, as well as staking of the center line. And the other waiver request is the scale of the plan, since it's such a large area. Instead of 1 inch, it's 40 feet, the 1 inch is 80 feet to show the whole plan on one sheet. So those are the three waivers that are being requested. And some of the conditions that we discussed, and let's just read them again. Future addresses for proposed lots, all easements, recorded documents provided to the board prior to the plan endorsement, test holes inspected by licensed soil evaluator prior to construction, construction vehicles, loading materials, not located in the right-of-way while loading materials. To use Albert Street to exit and enter the site, something we discussed. The type of streetlight mentioned to be approved by the town engineer. And I think that was all of them. So I just wanted to disclose that information for the record.
is there a final public comment? Yeah.
Mark Lulu, Williams Drive again. What is it currently zoned at? Is it going, what will it be zoned as? The land, is it rural residential now?
Let me confirm that for you. The zoning would not change,
Okay.
no matter what, so I believe that's correct. I think it's residential rural. Just want to make sure it's in the RC, but I'm fairly certain that's the case. Yeah, that's correct. It's RR. That's correct.
So is that what, 1.5 acres per lot?
It's 60,000 square feet, yes.
1.5?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought one of them was like 1.43 or something like that.
It's 60,000 square feet, so.
So
and
it's slightly
a little
less than.
Right.
You're going by builder's acre of 40,000 instead of 43,000, I would say.
Right.
All right, so
One other item, just for
Yeah.
discussion purposes, construction hours. There's something while the neighborhood is here, something we want to discuss. And this came up with some of the other subdivision projects regarding like school buses and when they go by, it's things like that. When is it appropriate to start construction hours versus weekends, Sundays, holidays, etc. Our standard construction hours start from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Fridays. They have Saturday hours from 8:30 to 12. And there are no Sundays and holidays. I just wanted to say that, and if anyone has any other suggestions to that, please let us know.
Ronnie.
So what time do the school buses in the neighborhood?
There's a
8
different
to
grades in
8:30.
school, so that's why I asked the neighborhood how it exists now. And you might just have a group of older kids in the neighborhood versus younger kids, or one or the other, so I just figured I'd ask.
Mrs. Song. Yeah.
Yes, 11 Laker Street, Eileen Lassard. I know that there's a 7:30 bus that goes in front of my house every morning. You can time my schedule by using it. And then there's 2:30 bus and a 3 o'clock bus that come Albert. They come up actually blinking and turn around and come back on that blink.
Okay. So starting at you should be saying
Any board comment on that?
There's one other comment from,
Yes, sir.
I was just gonna elaborate on hers. There's a bus that comes at 6:30 in the morning to pick up the high school.
Okay, but nothing after 8 a.m. is,
There's one at 7:30 and there's one at 8 for the elementary school. 8 o'clock is the last one in the morning.
so the construction hours wouldn't impact the schedule. Okay. All right, so typically we're looking for a motion to close the hearing here, but Matt's suggested that we wait until after the Conservation Commission hearing is complete. So we'll look for a motion to continue the hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Did you have any comment on
To
that?
the date.
just for disclosure purposes, for the conservation to weigh in on it and to hopefully get the response from the town clerk and the street name
That's correct.
added to the plan. So,
Okay.
Do
and
the
we'll-
waivers on the last night.
Yeah, so we discussed the final waivers and the other, any other outstanding items at that time. So is there a second?
Second,
Okay.
and the date to March 15th.
Yeah.
That you said we weren't meeting on the 14th.
that's the following. So we have a March 14th meeting, and then the 28th we'll discuss later. That's the special town meeting day.
March 14th.
So
can you repeat what the name is?
so we'll just vote on it quickly and then, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll see you March 14th at 7 p.m. Okay.
Great, thank you.
May I just sign off?
Sir, excuse me, what's your last name? Gordon. Gordon. Never knew that. Yeah,
First question.
All right, so the next application is Sparhawk Realty LLC, requesting site plan approval under section 3.2.5.7 of the Auburn zoning bylaws for a building trade shop on property located at 3 Jerome Ave. Welcome back.
Thank you. I have to accuse myself for a conflict of interest.
Always do that.
Got half the board. You, man, I got your back outside.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back. Do you want to give us a quick update?
Yep, I think we revised the print a little, the way, for the parking lot, the way Mr. Anderson of the fire department wanted it. We eliminated the exit using the right-of-way, and just gonna have a curb cut right out to Jerome, and that's the only two things we were really hung up on, so my lawyer advised me it'd be better for me anyway, because if down the road I go to sell it, I don't have to worry about getting somebody else to use that right of way. So that's all been taken care of, that's all set. The Conservation Committee walked with it Saturday. I don't think they're gonna have any issues, I hope, but other than that, I don't think there's really much that you were waiting for, unless YZ has something to point out, I don't.
So we base our calculation for the parking spaces based on the usage of the building. So 75% of the building will be the square feet for the storage, and 25% is going to be for the building trade shop, how you would find it. So if you do 75% off this building, you'll require 3 spaces, and then 25% of building trade shop use will require 5 spaces, so we provided a total of 8 spaces.
Okay. Matt, any time or comment?
Yes, sorry, I'm still kind of seeing this kind of the first time. So, let's see you change that, because that line, you just come straight across, right?
Right. So this section of it is going to be 25% of the building trade shop, and this whole section is going to be 75% of the storage warehouse.
Okay.
We do have a proposed oil and water separator outside the building, which will be connected to the floor drain inside the building, and then which this will be connected to a clean out to a sewer connection.
Okay. So, the other thing, and sorry through the chair, and the access used to be here, and this was discussed with the DCG earlier this month, and the questions arose regarding the easement, et cetera, as you mentioned, so I'm glad to see that that has changed. That's a very good idea. The other, and you guys have an active application with the Conservation Commission now, correct?
Yes,
Or-
yeah, I met with him Saturday morning, and I think the next meeting is the 8th.
March 8th.
March 8th.
is coming.
But, they seemed pretty satisfied with it. I'm not within 100 feet of anything.
Okay.
The question was that man-made swale
Right.
along, which has been deserted. It now dumps into the sewer system in the middle of Jerome Ave from across the street, so
Right,
I have no
right.
issues on
It
my
used to
side. I
be
hope.
almost overland flow from across the street, right? And
Right.
it was something,
Yep.
So there's going to be, so before, like, I believe this will overland falls and it flows into this ditch over here. Now it's been connected to the town of Auburn
Storm.
drainage system.
Mhm. Yep. They walked my property and the one across from Jerome at the same time, because she's before you to ZBA anyway.
so my only other question was regarding the peer review, and that was DCG's other comment. However, when this was sent out for the peer review, I believe we might have sent out the old plan, which might have had more impervious surface, might have had a different layout, more parking spaces, et cetera, et cetera. And there was also consideration of wetlands, et cetera. So, at this time, I still love to see conservation approve first, but I'd leave it to the board regarding the peer review as it was a recommendation from the DCG, as customary for any commercial development in Auburn to at least have a review. And you may reduce the scope, and it's something I could ask Quinn Engineering to only focus on the stormwater analysis, aside from the parking and the civil engineering stuff, because this seems to meet our requirements, just from a design standard. I just don't know about the stormwater stuff, and that's something we usually vet out.
So the town's recommendation would be to still have a peer review, but to have it contained to just the hydrology calculations tied to this.
Yeah, which may reduce the estimate.
Okay. Board comment? Ronnie?
John, is the gray area the only asphalt?
That's it, yeah.
So you come in on the lower end of Jerome and out,
Mhm.
it's one way
Yep,
direction, you got it like that?
yep.
And the roof drains and all the parking lot drains out to Jerome Ave and down to the corner catch basin, I
Mhm.
assume.
No, it's
Yeah,
going to be infiltrate into the
That's it.
surface.
Ground?
Yep.
So all the drainage like contained on site, we're not discharging to any into the town system or the neighbors.
So for drainage calcs, what's involved in that? How
So
much-
we did
how much
a-
is there that we need to have peer review?
I'd have to defer to the chair, to the applicant, I'm sure.
It can get technical, but if you were to look at the pre and post the CFS discharges, peak discharges, usually what the requirement is, the proposed number has to be less than the existing peak discharge. So which we come up with ways to like slow down the water flow. So that's by like providing a Caltech system and a catch basin to hold the water, so that like the peak discharge is lower in proposed condition, which we have satisfied according to this stormwater management report, which I have it over here.
Sure. I believe you gave this to us also, right?
This is also submitted.
Okay.
So if you were to look at this pre and post values, they are pretty much lower than that, and we do also provide a this is recharge volume.
So the hydrology calculation is done by HST group or another firm?
It's done by us, but it's been done by a licensed engineer. Who's
Does the board have opinion on whether or not to send it out to a reduced scope peer review.
I'm just not a hydrologist, sorry.
Yeah.
It's almost
I
a
could
different
wait
language to
quick.
me, so.
I've been using with the utmost respect for Matt, because he's a gentleman, the town's lucky to have him. But I've been using HS&T for over 30 years. All my site plans, never had an issue. And the gentleman who's doing the site work probably doesn't even need their plan to do it correctly. Gary Pike, of Gary Pike Construction, so. And myself, it's my property. And I know maybe if you tell me it absolutely has to be done, it is a money issue, I'm a little tight, but that's the road it's gotta go. I do things right, so. But I just don't think you're gonna have any problems.
If I may interject, also the site's a very flat site, so you know it won't be like we won't be discharging into any other site, or like it won't be like flowing over land to someone else's land just because of our proposed conditions.
My only concern or opinion on it is it's kind of at the bottom of a hill in a relatively low area near other waterways, and just want to make sure we don't create a headache for the residents on the street. But ask the board if they have.
How long does it take to get the peer review, and what does that cost?
The estimate we got was approximately.
$1,980.
Right.
For what was going to be a much more extensive review of the site plan and other things.
Sure.
Now it's going to be limited just to the hydrology calculations.
I think at a minimum, hydrology calculation should be done.
That's what I was thinking,
None of us are
Chair, but I also,
hydrologists.
I'd also like to hear John's opinion as something that he
Okay.
might know more about than me.
As far as the drainage and stuff goes,
Yeah.
my only concern is they're containing everything on site, which is great, and they're recharging the ground. I haven't seen any soil samples done yet, but I'm sure that's part of the hydrology
It's
review.
a soil type A, and it's a very good soil.
So that would be my only thing, is to have the peer review done, is just to make sure that, you know, I don't know if it's built for 25-year storm, 50-year storm, or 100-year storm. Probably 25, I would imagine.
We do the calculation for 2, 10, 25, up to 100 years. So we did provide calculation up to 100 years.
And we're being so flat, and it's not really below Jerome Ave on that area, that if it ever did clog, it's gonna back on Jerome Ave. That's my only concern. And if Quinn Engineering is fine with it, then I don't have an argument.
So it would conceivably be, no, probably not much more than half of that fee.
I
Well,
don't
you
know
don't-
for
you're
sure.
not
I
sure.
can't say for sure, but it's certainly worth the shorter scope review and seeing what that estimate is. This is my opinion.
So it sounds like the board's leaning towards continue with the peer review, but a substantially cut down version of that, which will save you some time and substantial money. Unless there's any other thoughts on that. Just the board, every application goes through this process. It's really just to kind of, in fact, to supplement the town's experience on when it comes to hydrology and other, more technical components to make sure that the town's protected. So it's the same standard that everybody's held to, except in your case, it's going to be a much smaller scope of work and a much simpler review, which is a positive at least. So, agree? So we would be looking for a motion to continue, which we would be looking for likely anyways, because Concom is not complete. And hopefully by that time we have the hydrology calculations complete. Matt, did you have any?
No, I see that the same. I was just curious the applicant's opinion.
Sure. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yep.
Doesn't get any better than Gary, but.
No, absolutely
but
not. Like I
still,
say, it doesn't
some of
even
the
need the
concerns
plans.
John has and the
I
other
mean,
people,
yeah.
with the water all coming down
Okay.
at the end, what's the groundwater like down there? And
Yeah. I
then
mean,
then we'll feel good that
Yep.
it'll.
Actually, there's more issues with the town than there will be with my project. Serious, that culvert that dumps into Jerome Ave it's a headache for everybody, so there's gonna be water down there, it ain't gonna be coming from me, it's there, every time there's a storm, the front of my garage is puddled.
We strongly encourage you as a taxpayer to follow up with both Matt and the DPW to make sure that gets corrected.
We've tried.
Um,
It is what it is.
Okay,
I
so,
respect it, and whatever you need, we'll do.
okay, so motion to continue,
Against
So-
the 14th,
March 14th, 7:05.
make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See you in a couple of weeks, and hopefully they can complete that back.
Thank you.
I'm gonna reach out to Kim first thing tomorrow, see if I can get it revised on that.
All right.
And as soon as I can get them engaged, once we receive payment, see what the estimate is. So, just need here too.
So our 710 application for TAC Realty LLC is continued
Sorry.
to the next meeting as well.
The building trade shop through Jerome.
Yeah, I think they did get peer review information back. So we have a decision on, so a motion to accept that continuance.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And then we have a decision on 404 Washington Street, Telesite LLC, which Matt will quickly address and then you can sign. While he's doing that, maybe we can go out of order a little bit. And there's some correspondence, a memo from the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee relating to some bylaw amendments, which they are looking for a recommendation from the Planning Board to the Select Board for warrant, to recommend for warrant consideration. So hoping you guys all have seen those.
Is that the one for the recreational marijuana, or is it the other one?
So there's two, and we need to vote them separately. The first one I would suggest we look is the zoning
That's
changes.
basically some housekeeping.
Yeah. So the bylaw review committee's been doing a great job going through all of the kind of outdated bylaws and making sure that they're all kind of up to date. So a lot of these are really just kind of procedural and/or updates to reference newer plans. So I'd look for a motion to recommend to the selectmen for warrant consideration.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then on the next one is on the marijuana moratorium, which I believe is similar to what we had done for medical marijuana. The voters have now approved statewide recreational marijuana, so this would give the town time to review and consider that
Time
as
to
well.
hope that Jeff Sessions will start enforcing all of it, and it'll be over.
I know one former planning board member in particular who is, I'm sure, eagerly awaiting that.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
So, is there a motion to recommend that the moratorium to the selectmen for warrant consideration?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Back to you, Matt, for decision on 404 Washington Street.
Oh, sure. So we received the bond and the amount for $25,000. It's been reviewed by town council, and we seem satisfied. It's a blueprint of the previous bond with a new value and new names on it, so I'm
Matt, is that that's down opposite Eddie Pond?
Pretty well.
behind motorsports, kind of, this
Yeah,
bond building.
down in back.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the brook
You know where
goes
Wall Street
down.
is?
Yeah.
Right there in the back.
Yep.
You
So-
can barely see it.
And we already voted to
Yeah.
approve this, it's just a matter of signing the decision, which I have already, and just very comfortable signing it.
Which the only thing we were waiting on was the bond, which has now been done.
This is in the amount, the increased amount that Mr. Brooks had asked for. So,
What'd you do?
the bond was at 19 and change, they increased it to 25K per request.
All right. While that's circulating, I think we can talk about the Drury Square Downtown Initiative Report. Hoping everybody had a quick chance to look at that. And this is obviously something the board's been looking at for some time now through both the CMRPC study and now the Harriman study with the downtown charrette. So, are there any comments on this?
Was this provided to the zoning board as well?
They'll get their copy next week.
Okay.
Or, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm not sure, but it very well should have been. So I'll double check that for you. But since we got this February 7th, any committee that should have met since then is supposed to get a copy. But I will verify that for you.
Yeah, that's gonna be important if we're gonna move forward with any of this.
Very much. I can say through the chair that 2 of the zoning board members are on the zoning bylaw review committee, and I provided that to them. One of them is the chairman.
So my only comment on it was really kind of hope they would go a little bit deeper than we have here. You know, I attended the charrette, and a lot of these things were discussed in the charrette, but it didn't really seem to take into account the work done by CMRPC to try to build off that and maybe make some recommendations to that plan. And it had kind of hoped to see a little bit more creative thinking on how to use some of the parcels. One decision that had already been made, and is no fault certainly of the consultant, is it's a limited area as well. You know, we really as a group been looking all the way down that 12 corridor to the Mass Pike. This really focused on a very limited defined area. I guess my only suggestion or request would be that the town maybe look at, is there a way to either re-engage this group as part of the existing scope or to try to apply for additional funding to expand this to look down the 12 corridor, which I think is probably the more complicated component of it. 50% of this land is town owned, and really the only development parcel within it is really the Shaw site, which they give some recommendation on, but it's limited without a ton of detail and no real recommendations as to what the appropriate massing should be, how many stories would be appropriate, what that should look like, other than some design guidelines which look like may have been existing but just added in. So I guess that would be my suggestion. I'd also suggest the town maybe get creative and look at, are there better uses for some of the town-owned land in that area that could be implemented not over a 5 or 10 year period, but maybe over a 30 or 50 year period to support, you know, this being a visioning exercise and not a 5-year action plan. Could the town look at
What's
that?
left as far as the life on the fire headquarters building? What kind of life?
The chief, fire chief, although understands kind of the ideas behind the recommendation for that parcel, it being a prime real estate parcel, has expressed on several occasions that your response times from this location are as great as they are because they're in that location. And if you were to move it, you will take away from that one way or the other. Just the access they have there will reduce one way or the other. And that was one of his prime reasons for kind of opposed to relocating the fire station. But as far as the building condition, the master plan committee was in there not long ago, and there's some updates that need to be done. There's some updates that have already been done. They've updated the second floor.
It's not a
the
bad
kitchen and
building at
stuff.
all.
It's not.
Well,
It's
as I
not.
said, what's left in the life of it?
It's more along the lines
Would it
of-
be realistic to even look at that?
Sure. And there's more along the lines of
25
capacity.
years left, easy,
Mm.
or longer.
And
Certainly.
even some of the recommendations, I think, in this, certainly don't want to jeopardize fire response time,
No.
but there's a lot of land around that if we were to look at maybe one of the recommendations of the report is shared parking or other things. Could the library and fire department share some parking, free up some land? I mean, could they get creative in some ways with some of that to try to free up some land in that area, because they are the major landholder. Any other thoughts?
I can add one thing to that. Next to the fire station, heading south on Auburn Street, there is a parking lot owned by the town that we are going to try to identify, because most folks don't know that it's town property. You think it's part of the multiple business building that's down the street from the fire station, and you realize that entire parking lot is pretty much the town's.
Is that the one behind Town Pizza?
Oh, on the other side. So fire station heading south.
Towards
towards
Brotherton
the mall.
Way.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. The vast expense of parking there is town. I didn't know that either. It's just, so that's something that we'd like to identify.
There's only one
But-
building there, isn't there, and on the White House?
That's right, that's right.
Is it
Yeah,
paved?
it is.
So between the fire barn and the building is that's almost all town land.
Yeah.
There
that's
used to
town
be
parking.
parking on.
Right. So in addition to that, we had a meeting, the town manager, myself, and several others to discuss the transportation improvement project of Auburn Street, which is a state-funded road improvement plan that's set for 2021. And we added some of the civic improvements to that
So
plan.
it's on the tip
including-
already?
It is.
Scheduled for 21?
Right.
And is there, including traffic calming measures, lighting, trees, walkability, all of those components are included in?
They
what's on
weren't
the tip?
they weren't at first, and as a result of the meeting we had recently, those are now going to become a part of it.
Great.
So we
Excellent.
met with our
Bike
engineer
lane.
to,
Yeah.
wider sidewalks on certain
Sidewalks,
sides.
yeah.
Yeah, the bike lane, traffic calming, as you mentioned, and there might even be the crosswalk across from the high school and McDonald's. That's going to have a signalized, not a traffic light, but a
No, pedestrian.
right
yeah.
to help that area, because that's a hot spot in itself. But the widening on sides where you can, because naturally there's some buildings that are right on the road, like the Rockroy, the bank right there, that's real close, and you can only go so far with that. So
But in, in an effort to slow down the traffic in
Mhm.
that area,
Absolutely.
it would make sense to put a bike lane in there and, bring the width of that road.
that goes with the wider sidewalk, accents to the sidewalks, whether it's brick, cobblestones, etc. whichever
Well,
one we
something that's,
decide. Right.
accessible and,
Right.
that all looks pretty, but
Yeah,
when
it's
you
just
get
an
right down
accent
to it in
strip.
New England,
Yeah.
brick and stone and,
Right.
that heaves and.
It's not exactly.
Eventually, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm not saying the sidewalk would be all brick or anything. There's like little accent features, strips,
Right,
something
which helps with
Yeah.
people with vision
Right.
issues to
Yeah.
delineate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ADA compliant upgrades, we need all of that too. And ornamental street lighting, including where you can hang plants or banners or flags and stuff like
ornaments
that.
and
Yeah, things like that, or along that whole corridor. So a lot of good ideas came from that, and so they're already getting poured into the 2021 TIP project.
Well, great.
How much
And-
is allocated on the tip?
So far, it was only 2.1 million before these recommendations were made.
Probably not even enough for design.
Yeah, it's just about 25% design, and it was still just 2.1. It was one of the lower tip projects we reviewed. Yeah, surprising.
Who did the 25% design?
VHB.
Well,
So
anything
it's
more?
$500,000 to design the $2.1 million thing?
I'm not sure. Oh, no, that's, the 25% is like
25% is
the total project. You hit a certain stage called 25% design phase. It's not
and then that's
how much we paid them
that's the
for it.
trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, anything we could do to speed that up,
Mhm.
so it was a little bit closer into the midterm
Sure.
plans here would be great, but
But I agree with Jonathan, we took a good long look at Route 12 and, there's myriad things that can be done there if we could get together with some of these, landowners and
Mhm.
especially that Shaw's parking lot, I mean,
A waste of space.
oh,
Absolutely.
so much potential right
No
there.
one
Yeah.
ever pops.
You could put the fire
Yeah.
station right there. And they still have the same response time.
and I even thought in this they had two plans, one more conservative, one more aggressive. But even the conservative plan, I just was a little surprised they weren't more aggressive in trying to activate the front in some way.
And I mean, at some point, are we going to be thinking about going the way that a lot of the other towns are going and have a complex, the police and fire? I mean, police have already outgrown the building that was built on Oxford. And so is there, so is that an opportunity going forward?
It's a 50-year plan. It wouldn't necessarily be take place over this 2 to 5 year term, but I would also hope that the town administration may recognize the wayfinding elements included in this
Yeah, that
and
is
Yeah,
absolutely part of it. It's part
utilize
of
some
TIP
of the
too.
recent signage
Yep.
opportunities that were
Yep.
passed to accomplish that. So
Is zoning the main thing holding back the kind of development that's down there?
it
Sure, yes and no, and
no, because
absolutely, but
1,000
we-
square foot.
based on the study and some of the information we got was if you're to beautify the area first, you're gonna raise the value to get those developers to try to grab more parcels of land to build these things the way you want
They
them.
will come?
Yeah, so if you're to clean up the area as best as possible to make it look like that civic nature and put feet on the sidewalks walking around, you can probably entice the building, or the developer.
Yeah, but I think the problem with these type of plans is I know we're kind of criticizing it for being too topical, which it is.
Hmm.
It goes the other way and they tend to be all encompassing and you're biting off too much to chew. I mean, we gotta take one small step. And if we could just say, hey, this is a rough plan, let's change the zoning, it's gonna take 20, 30 years for whatever that zoning's gonna be, but at least you're gonna allow the private investment when they're ready. They may be sooner than us, they may not wait until it's beautiful, but at least there's an opportunity for something to start happening. At the same time,
Right.
the town can get, their situation, get to start to beautify it as it's going. But I just get concerned when these plans start to go from this to something massive, and then it's like, okay, we've got this gorgeous, beautiful plan, now what? It's almost really like, I want to look at, what do we do with those two parcels?
Yeah.
We need to find something small and build off that.
Yeah, my hope was, so we had just gone through a process with CMRPC to come up with some draft zoning bylaws. And I was hoping that this was going to expand on that, maybe say, hey, those bylaws are missing X, Y, and Z. So we'd have something to then recommend to town meeting to say, hey, we got something to reviewed by 2 groups, it went through a public charrette process, this is the outcome. So we have something to move forward, and we just didn't really get that here.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if we had the right zoning combined with a plan of the certain type of look and feel we wanted that people had to abide by, you may not get the A+ area you want day one, but at least it's that first little development, and as long as it's consistent with that frontage plan we want. In my opinion, those 2 basic things is really all you need to get some private investment to at least start thinking about it, the business brokers and things like that, to say, here's what could happen. So no matter what went in there, at least it'd be according to our facade, if you will, on that level. I think we start to get into too micromanaging the process with private investment, and just never, I just don't think it works that way.
Would your bank offer interest-free financing?
No, I work for a for-profit institution. Yeah, exactly.
Just want to add, keep in mind, the economic development grant is also examining a lot of the Drury Square stuff, including the zoning. So there's still that on the table too, for maybe to answer some of the questions you guys bring up.
Well, it suggests, keep having everything build off each other, so that
That's,
I'd really love to see this group be able to recommend some zoning bylaws to town meeting. Because if the town's not saying this is what we want, and this is what we'll allow, the developer's never going to do it. So
Exactly.
until you get something like that out there and you tell them, hey, we're willing to give you this flexibility, the door's shut. So.
the Bylaw Review Committee is also going to be examining the area specifically too. So it's,
Hurry up.
we have the pieces in place. It's just this is the first study you're seeing to cover the streetscape. The rest of the stuff might be rolling.
By the time I get around to that, John may move back to Auburn.
That'd be great.
Fair enough. So, anything else on here? I know there's CMRPC workshops, which there's a notice in there.
Yes. May I elaborate on that? So, anyone who hasn't been to a Citizens Planning Training Collaborative Workshop, I highly recommend these. Some of them are some basic roles and responsibilities for planning board and such. The town would pay for your certification. There's lunch. All right. It's just,
Well,
it's on a
we-
Saturday,
that's
that's
a
the worst
rule.
part.
Yeah.
But it's, these are really good educational opportunities. I go to these things every year and try to learn something new every year, and they're really helpful. And I sent these out a few weeks ago. I haven't heard from anyone yet, but I definitely recommend them, and I speak highly of these
What's the
workshops because
last
they're really
week?
helpful.
Sign up.
3 days prior to the event, I believe. So it'll be the Wednesday before.
15th.
Hey, I'll be there, so.
You'll be there?
Yeah.
Beautiful. I definitely recommend it.
You got our eyes and ears right there.
Someone like a volunteer. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I certainly recommend it to new members also.
Well, you said something about the special town meeting. I was under the impression it was the 15th, but it's the 28th, so that's when our meeting gets bumped to the
Right.
29th.
That's correct, and I'm glad you said that before the motion, because I just need the board to make a motion to change the meeting date of March 28th to March 29th
Okay,
in lieu of.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. So, because we're not bumping the 14th meeting, I will not be here. I'll be traveling.
Okay.
So, we can get something
You gotta
on
have a cloud out there.
Bryn Mawr Estates. Was there some other update on that, or no?
There is not.
No news at this point. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.